What if a simple quarter in your pocket was secretly worth thousands, or even over $80,000? Face screaming in fear in this video, we're diving into the rarest 1965, 1967, and 1972 Washington quarters that collectors are paying a fortune for. Stay till the end, you might own one of these hidden treasures. Money bag. Imagine picking up a quarter and suddenly wondering, could this little silver-colored disc in my pocket be worth more than 25 cents? Well, let me tell you a story about the 1967 Washington quarter, a coin that looks ordinary but has a history and possible quirks that can unlock surprising value. The Washington quarter was introduced way back in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington. A designer named John Flanagan carved the profile of Washington on the front and an eagle on the back, and that design stayed on our quarters until 1998. Wikipedia, U.S. coins value. Only that for 1967, there's a twist. Up until 1964, quarters were made of 90% silver, but rising silver prices made the mint switch to a cheaper copper-nickel clad in 1965 U.S. coins value, Wikipedia. In 1967, all Washington quarters are that copper-nickel clad, each weighing about 5.67 grams and measuring 24.30 millimeters in diameter. U.S. coins value. Another twist. From 1965 through 1967, the mint removed the mint mark from quarters to discourage people hoarding specific mint coins as collectibles. Wikipedia, U.S. coins value. In 1967, over 1.5 billion of these coins were minted in Philadelphia, plus about 1.86 million special mint set coins struck in San Francisco with a satin, collector finish appearance. U.S. coins value, Wikipedia. Because of that massive mintage, most 1967 quarters are common and only worth about 30 cents in everyday circulated condition. You might spend one and not give it a second thought. But some of them, especially those in exceptional condition or with strange minting errors, can be really interesting and surprisingly valuable. Uncirculated examples graded MS66 or higher are quite rare, and the very top grading can fetch serious money. There was one MS68 that reached $8,813 at auction in 2017. Coleccionistas de Monedas, Coin Week. Even an MS67 Plus example sold for $5,170 back in 2016, but just a year later fetched only around $500. Coleccionistas de Monedas, Coin Week. So, values depend on both condition and demand. Now, the special mint sets, the SMS coins, are also collector coins with a satin finish and sharper detail. If they have cameo or deep cameo contrast, that pushes their value higher. One SMS coin graded SP69 Cameo sold for around $4,700. History Tools, U.S. Coins Guide, Coleccionistas de Monedas. So while regular quarters in circulated condition are just worth 25 cents, high-grade or SMS versions can be worth hundreds or even thousands. But the real fun comes in the form of minting errors. These are mistakes made during production and can turn a common coin into something rare and potentially worth serious cash. One well-known source lists a whole menu of valuable error types on 1967 quarters: coins struck on nickel planchets, smaller and missing parts of the design, going for $130 to $160, coins struck on dime planchets, even smaller, big parts missing, around $100, those struck on copper planchets, reddish color, rim missing, worth $90 to $150. 1967 quarter dollar, the West Alabama Watchman. Off-center strikes, where the coin was stamped off-center, can be worth $50 to $200 depending on how off it is. 1967 quarter dollar. There are also clipped planchets that have part of the coin missing, either curved or straight chips, which in mint condition can be worth up to $400. 1967 quarter dollar. Double die errors, where lettering or images are doubled, are another category. Depending on how visible the doubling is, these may bring in $25, $100 or more. 1967 quarter dollar. There are even rarer, more dramatic errors. For example, a coin missing the clad layer on one side, revealing a copper core, has been documented and sold for around $80. Ned Ludd coins. Rim oddities: when the rim is distorted during minting rather than by wear, can range from face value up to $1,500 if the coin is in mint condition, but the real holy grail among 1967 quarters is a piece struck on a silver planchet leftovers from before 1965 that were mistakenly used. Those are extremely rare. If you find one, you'd weigh about 6.25 grams instead of 5.67, it looks whiter, and it rings differently. Certified silver planchet errors can sell for $1,500 to $5,000 plus depending on condition. 1967 quarter dollar, U.S. Coins Guide. There have even been isolated high-grade error coins that went for more. One MS64 coin with a 50% off-center error sold for $3,840, and a 1967 coin struck on a cent planchet tiny coin graded MS65RB went for $12,000. History tools. But those are exceptional cases, verified and graded by professionals. You mentioned hearing that a 1967 Washington quarter could be worth $35,000. That kind of figure is extremely unlikely unless the coin has a totally unique error or provenance. Some sources talk about anthology-level rarity errors like elaborate mule errors, where mismatched dies were used, or coins never meant to exist, but nothing credible that I could find shows a 1967 Washington quarter fetching that much. That price may have come from exaggeration or confusion. Coin Week, The Sun. So before trusting such claims, always check trusted auction records and grading services like PCGS or NGC. If you've got one in your pocket or think you might, here's what you can do: take a good look under a loupe or magnifier. Check if anything seems odd, like doubled letters, bits missing, color or size strange, or the edge smooth where it should be readed. Weigh it if you can, see if it's about 5.67 g, or heavier like 6.25 g if it may be silver. You can compare to reliable catalogs or grading guides. If something stands out, you might consider submitting it to a grading service for expert verification. Even if your coin turns out to be a regular circulated quarter, it's still the same coin that's passed through so many hands, that's part of everyday history. But if it's one of those rare errors, you could be holding a tiny, shiny window into a minting mistake and possibly a collector's treasure. So next time you empty your pocket, pull out that Washington quarter and take a second to look. It could be just spare change, or something that sparks a story. I hope this version hits the look, flow, simplicity, and conversational tone you're aiming for, while including the key history, description of error types, and values based on real, cited data. If you'd like any part expanded further toward the full 2,500 words or adjusted to highlight something else, just let me know. Imagine holding a small piece of history in your hand, a 1965 Washington quarter. Now, picture that ordinary-looking quarter potentially being worth thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars. It's not science fiction. Certain 1965 quarters are incredibly rare and collectors pay handsomely for them. In this video, we'll walk through what makes these coins so valuable, how they came to be, and how you can spot them using simple tools. Back in 1965, a huge shift happened in U.S. coin production. Until then, quarters were made from 90% silver, but rising silver prices and shortages triggered Congress to pass the Coinage Act of 1965. This law changed quarters to a copper-nickel-clad composition. That switch started late that year. But in the chaos of production, some leftover silver blanks accidentally got mixed in. That's how what collectors call a transitional error occurred. 1965 quarters struck on 90% silver planchets that should have never been used for that year. These are among the rarest 1965 errors, and when authenticated by PCGS or NGC, they can sell for $5,000 to $15,000 or even more depending on condition and grade. U.S. Coins Value, Coin Week, 33rd Square, Quality Assurance Association. Collectors estimate fewer than 100 of these silver planchet 1965 quarters exist. That rarity, paired with high demand, pushes auction prices into the 5-digit range. 33rd Square, Coin Week, The Sun. For example, one coin graded PCGS $58 sold for $14,687.50 in 2014, and others in similar condition fetched between $7,000 and $9,300. U.S. Coins Value, Coin Week, 33rd Square. One coin you mentioned, the $16,800 sale, is quite plausible for a high-grade silver planchet error in excellent condition. Some rare pieces in top grades have sold upwards of that figure. Quality Assurance Association. So how can anyone, even a casual coin hunter, spot one of these? It's actually simple. Silver planchet quarters weigh more, around 6.25 grams versus the standard copper nickels 5.67 grams. Quality Assurance Association, the Sun. And you can inspect the edge. Regular quarters show a reddish copper band, but a silver planchet will look all silvery, with no hint of color. The Sun. U.S. Coins Value, 1965 quarter worth. Coin experts share this advice regularly. Grab a scale, look at the rim, and you could spot huge value in what looks like change. The Sun. But the 1965 quarters story doesn't end there. Other errors also fetch good money. There's the mysterious double-tail error, where both sides show the eagle reverse design. No Washington bust. Only 3 such coins are known, and they've sold for between $41,000 and over $80,000. Coleccionistas de Monedas, VIP Art Fair Collectibles, Quality Assurance Association. Many are skeptical, though some counterfeiters try gluing 2 reverse halves together, so weighing and edge inspection are essential. Coleccionistas de Monedas. Then there are double die obverse errors, called FS101 or FS102, where letters like Liberty or the date show double images. These are easier to spot than clever forgeries and can be found for a few $100 if worn, but collectors will pay up to $1,400 or more for high-grade examples. U.S. Coins Value, Coleccionistas de Monedas, VIP Art Fair Collectibles. Off-center strikes are another fun one. If the planchet wasn't centered when struck, part of the design gets cut off. If the date is still visible, that can be worth $100 to $300 or more. 1965 quarter worth, VIP Art Fair Collectibles. Mistakes happen when quarters are struck on wrong planchets too, like penny or dime blanks. A quarter struck on a cent planchet looks small and reddish, and one on a dime blank is too tiny. These errors can be worth anywhere from a few hundred to around $1,400. Coleccionistas de Monedas, Coin Trackers, 1965 quarter worth. If a coin was struck more than once, called multiple strikes or double strikes, you might see a ghost image or overlapping features. Those can be visually striking and fetch $400 or more. Coleccionistas de Monedas, VIP Art Fair Collectibles. There are broad strike errors too, where the collar fails and the coin spreads out wider. These are neat to look at and can be worth $75 to a few $100. VIP Art Fair Collectibles, Quality Assurance Association. Let's not forget special mint set SMS quarters from 1965 either. These were made with a satin finish for collectors. While most aren't worth much, the rare, cameo, or deep cameo varieties with frosted raised elements contrasting with shiny fields can jump from a few dollars to hundreds or even thousands, with deep cameo examples sometimes reaching $5,000. Explore and collect, Coin Value Checker. There are other odd errors, like struck through foreign objects. Say a staple fell on a planchet when it was struck, you might see a weird pattern on the surface. Believe it or not, those oddities sometimes go for over $1,000. 1965 quarter worth. So, here's a simple summary you could even share aloud in a video. Most 1965 quarters are worth just 25 cents, maybe a few dollars in great condition. But if your coin has special traits from the weight, the edge, to how it was struck, it might be one of those rare treasures. Some silver planchet errors have sold for up to $16,800 or more. Double tail errors have topped $40,000. Other mistakes like FS101 double dies or off-center strikes can be worth hundreds to a few thousand. It depends on the kind of error and how well the coin was preserved. If your coin ticks any of these boxes, get it authenticated and graded by a respected service like PCGS or NGC. That certification boosts value and trust for buyers. To wrap up, the 1965 Washington quarter, in most cases, is just loose change. But once in a while, a coin slips through with a mistake that makes it worth big money. If you're curious, pick up a scale and take a closer look. You might already be holding something extraordinary. Let me know if you'd like vision cues, visual comparisons, or a shorter version next. Happy to help. The 1972 D Washington quarter is a regular-looking coin that many people might think is only worth 25 cents. But some rare versions of this coin have sold for thousands of dollars. One special 1972 D quarter even sold for $3,055. It might sound surprising, but it's true. What makes this coin so valuable is not just its age, but the special errors and mistakes that happened when it was made at the U.S. Mint. This coin was made in Denver, which is why it has a small D mint mark on the front. That mint mark is found just behind George Washington's ponytail. In 1972, more than 300 million of these quarters were made in Denver. Most of them look normal and are only worth face value. But a small number were made with mint errors. These are the coins collectors are looking for because mistakes make them rare and interesting. One of the most valuable types of errors is called a double die. This happens when the machine that makes the coin stamps the design more than once but in slightly different positions. When this happens, the letters or numbers can look like they have a shadow or are printed twice. If you look at the words, Liberty, In God We Trust, or the date, 1972, and see any doubling, that's a good sign you might have a rare coin. Another error is called an off-center strike. This is when the coin wasn't placed correctly in the press, and part of the design ends up missing. The more off-center the coin is, the more valuable it can be, especially if you can still see the date. There are also clipped planchet errors, where a small part of the coin looks like it has a chunk missing from the edge. This happens when the metal sheet used to make the coins was not punched correctly. There are even rarer mistakes, like a coin being made on the wrong metal. For example, a quarter might accidentally be made on a dime-sized piece of metal. These mistakes are very rare, but when they happen, collectors are willing to pay a lot of money, sometimes even thousands of dollars. If you think you have a special 1972 D quarter, you should look at it carefully. Use a magnifying glass to check for doubling or other errors. You can also weigh the coin. A regular quarter should weigh about 5.67 grams. If it weighs much less, it might be a rare error coin. If you believe you have something valuable, don't clean it, and consider sending it to a professional grading company. They can tell you if it's real and how much it might be worth. In the end, the 1972 D quarter is a great example of how even everyday coins can be worth big money. All it takes is one rare error to turn a 25-cent coin into a treasure. So always check your spare change, you never know what you might find.